Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're taking you straight past the surface level, deep into the sources on a really fascinating topic. We're looking at the smallest state in the U.S.
Rhode Island.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Tiny state, geographically speaking. But wow, the concentration of paranormal stories, the sheer density. It's arguably unmatched anywhere else in America.
It's this incredible paradox, isn't it? You think ocean state, maybe beaches, Newport mansions, but the history, well, it goes way back to the 1600s, and it's just packed with tragedy.
Layers upon layers.
Right. You've got Revolutionary War trauma, the Gilded Age excess and its dark side, industrial disasters, real suffering there. And then this really unique colonial folklore. We're talking witch panics, actual vampire scares.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
All this history, all this trauma concentrated in such a small space over 4 centuries, it seems to create this this hot zone for haunting.
But it's interesting. Our sources point out it might not just be the history, right?
Yeah.
There's this whole other layer.
Yeah, the geophysical angle, there's some suggestion, especially about northern Rhode Island, concerning things like ley lines possibly converging.
Yeah.
And significant quartz deposits underground.
Which in paranormal circles, people theorize might act like batteries, holding on to that spectral energy.
Precisely. It's a theory, but it adds another dimension to why this small place seems so active. So our mission today is to unpack these sources, look at the different types of Rhode Island haunts,
Okay.
you know, from places you've seen in movies to these really dark institutions, the old mansions, and try to understand why this tiny state punches so far above its weight in the paranormal world.
Makes sense. So where should we start? Maybe the most famous one, the one that really put Rhode Island on the modern paranormal map.
Definitely. The Conjuring House. Officially, it's a 1736 farmhouse in Burrillville, known historically as the Perron House.
Right. From the movie The Conjuring, based on the real Perron family's experiences there in the 1970s.
And this ties right back to what we were just saying. It's in Burrillville, where those quartz deposits are supposedly significant. So you have potential geology meeting deep colonial history right there.
And the stories aren't just vague spookiness. They're very specific.
Oh, incredibly specific. The sources detail encounters with named entities. The most famous is Bathsheba Sherman. Believed to have been a witch, her spirit is said to be particularly restless, even malevolent.
And the activity reported, it's pretty extreme, isn't it?
Yeah, we're not just talking cold spots or creaky floors. The Perron family reported deads levitating off the ground, unexplained knocking sounds that would follow them, actual apparitions. It's intense stuff.
And now the house itself leans into this history.
Completely. It's a major paranormal tourism spot now. You can book tours, overnight investigations. Its history turned into, well, a business, a terrifying business.
So that's the big pop culture haunting.
Yeah.
But Rhode Island has much older, maybe even darker folklore. Let's talk about the New England vampire panic.
Ah, yes. Mercy Brown, Exeter, 1892. This is deep 19th century fear.
You have to put yourself in their shoes, right? Tuberculosis, or consumption, as they called it, was devastating communities. They didn't understand germ theory.
Not at all. So when one family member died from consumption and then another living relative started wasting away with the same symptoms, the explanation wasn't medical, it was supernatural.
The dead feeding on the living.
Yeah.
A vampire.
Exactly, the fear that gripped Exeter. The Brown family was hit hard by tuberculosis. Mercy died. Then her brother Edwin became sick. The community's fear focused on Mercy.
So they decided to exhume her body, along with others who had died recently.
Right. And here's the detail that cements the legend. The sources are clear. The other bodies showed expected decomposition. But Mercy's
different.
reportedly unnaturally preserved. And the most disturbing part, they found what looked like fresh, liquid blood in her heart and liver. For them, that was it. Undeniable proof.
Proof she was still alive in some way, causing Edwin's illness.
And the ritual that followed, it's just horrific to think about. They cut out her heart, burned it on a rock nearby. Then they took the ashes, mixed them with water or something, and gave it to Edwin to drink as a cure.
Did it work?
No, he died 2 months later. But Mercy's grave, it's still there in Chestnut Hill Cemetery. A real destination for ghost hunters now. A physical marker of that deep-seated fear and tragedy.
Well, that's individual fear. Folk horror almost. But Rhode Island also had these sites of organized suffering, institutional horrors.
A very different kind of darkness. Let's talk about the Ladd School, also in Exeter, interestingly.
Okay, this place has a really troubling history. Founded 1908, originally called the Rhode Island School for the Feeble-Minded.
And the founder was involved in the eugenics movement. That tells you a lot about its origins. It was about improving the population by controlling who reproduces.
So it wasn't just for the developmentally disabled.
No, it became a dumping ground. They housed criminals, people deemed sexually immoral, basically anyone society wanted to remove. And the conditions, the treatment.
Sources mention human rights violations, forced sterilizations, just systemic cruelty. There was even a case, right? A child murdered.
Yeah, horrific. In 1955, a 9-year-old boy was killed by another inmate inside the school. It paints a grim picture of the lack of care and the inherent violence of the place.
It closed down eventually.
In 1994, and they demolished all the buildings by 2014. But the land itself, people still report things. It's known as a haunted site.
What kind of things?
Classic residual haunting signs, it seems. Strange noises, moaning sounds, disembodied voices drifting on the wind. People feel cold spots, this heavy, unsettling feeling on the grounds. It's like the sheer weight of misery left an imprint.
So that's suffering tied to flawed medical and social theories. What about suffering tied to economic progress?
That brings us to Slater Mill in Pawtucket, founded 1793. Hugely significant historically. This is the birthplace of the American Industrial Revolution, America's first successful water-powered cotton spinning mill.
But that revolution came at a terrible human price.
Absolutely. Entire families worked there, including very young children, 6, 7 years old. They needed small hands and bodies to get inside the machinery, clean out jams, fix things.
It's horrifying to imagine. And dangerous.
Extremely. Many children were horribly injured, maimed by the machines, or killed instantly. Sudden, brutal deaths.
And the hauntings seem to reflect that specific trauma.
Very much so. There are consistent reports of hearing a young boy crying out. Maybe 9 years old, the stories say. You hear phantom sounds, the clang and bang of machinery starting up, even though it's all silent now.
Shadow figures, too.
Yes, reports of shadow people seen moving between the static looms and spindles, like echoes of the workforce, trapped in that cycle of labor and danger. It's a really potent haunting.
The sheer density of history is striking. Even seemingly normal places have layers, like the Cumberland Library.
Right, that's a great example of layered haunting. The building itself isn't that old comparatively. It started as a monastery around 1902.
And it has a resident ghost.
Apparently, yes. A phantom monk. Quite benign, actually. People report seeing him, or just sensing him. He supposedly tidies up the bookshelves, puts stray books back in place. A quiet, residual echo of the building's religious past.
Okay, so a helpful ghost monk.
Yeah.
But the land it's on, that has a much older, darker story.
Exactly. Nearby, there's a monument called 9 Men's Misery. It marks a spot from King Philip's War, back in 1676.
What happened there?
9 colonial soldiers were captured by Native Americans, and according to the historical accounts and local legend, they were tortured and then beheaded right there. A really brutal event.
So you have these overlapping hauntings.
Precisely. Inside the library, the quiet monk from the 20th century. Outside, on the nearby trails, locals report hearing blood-curdling screams and cries, especially at night. An echo of that 17th century violence. Different eras of intense history, side by side. It's very Rhode Island.
Let's shift eras now, from colonial and industrial trauma to the opulence and maybe hidden darkness of the Gilded Age. The Graduate Providence Hotel comes to mind. Used to be the Biltmore.
Oh yeah, the Biltmore, a classic. It was even ranked America's most haunted hotel back in 2000. And there are claims it's history-inspired writers. Stephen King, maybe Robert Bloch for Psycho's Bates Motel.
Okay, let's separate fact from rumor here, though. What do the sources confirm about its history?
Well, it was definitely a major hub during Prohibition. Lots of mob activity, a speakeasy. The sources mention a high number of suicides occurred there over the years. And there are persistent rumors, though maybe less documented, about possibly 6 murders being covered up during that era. It was a place of excess and vice.
And then there are the more extreme claims about its financing.
Right. The legend is that it was financed by an alleged Satanist, Johann Leisweiskopf. And tied to that are stories of secret rituals, animal sacrifices, hidden altars.
How solid is that part?
That's much more in the realm of legend and speculation, it seems. It certainly adds to the hotel's sinister reputation, this idea of a malevolent foundation. But the documented violence and despair are probably enough to fuel hauntings on their own.
And the main reported haunting is quite specific, isn't it?
Very. It's a visual replay. Guests and staff report seeing a figure falling past the windows, plummeting from an upper floor. But when they look down or rush outside, there's no body, never any impact. classic residual loop of a tragic event.
Plus the sounds.
Yeah. Phantom party noises, clinking glasses, laughter, loud voices, echoing those wild Prohibition nights.
Moving over to Newport, the heart of the Gilded Age. Belcourt Castle. That place has a weird origin story itself.
Wasn't it? Built 1894 by Oliver Belmont. And initially, it was designed primarily as this incredibly lavish stable for his prized horses. The horses had gilded stalls. Only later was it really renovated into a full-blown castle residence when he married Alva Vanderbilt.
That level of eccentric wealth seems to breed unique ghosts. The hauntings reported there are odd.
They really are. Not your typical wispy figures. The most famous, probably the two haunted chairs.
What about them?
Apparently, if you try to sit in them, they react. Some reports say they vibrate. Others claim they literally eject the person, like the chairs themselves are guarding the space.
That's bizarre. And the suit of armor?
Another classic Belcourt story. A 15th century suit of armor that reportedly moves on its own sometimes. Even more chilling, people claim to hear the death cry of the knight who wore it supposedly killed by a spear through the visor.
So the trauma is attached to the object itself.
Seems like it. That specific violent death echo trapped within the armor displayed centuries later in this over-the-top American castle. Layers upon layers again. There was also mention of a hooded monk figure, sometimes seen, adding another layer.
Okay, one more Newport mansion. Seaview Terrace or the Carey Mansion.
Huge place. Massive, 40,000 square feet. Gilded Age splendor. And it has its own pop culture connection. It was the exterior used for Collinwood Mansion in the Gothic soap opera Dark Shadows.
Fitting. What about the ghosts there?
It seems to be more traditional Gilded Age haunting. The main reported spirit is Mrs. Julia Williams Bradley, the wife of the original owner.
What does she do?
Her haunting is tied to something she loved in life. She's apparently seen and heard playing her beloved Este organ, a personal residual haunting. Alongside that, you get the more typical stuff. Unexplained footsteps and empty halls, shadowy figures glimpsed, strange banging noises.
What strikes me is how present these hauntings seem to be in Rhode Island life. It's not just remote ruins. You can, go have dinner with a ghost.
Exactly. That brings us to the interactive haunts, places still operating today. Let's start with the White Horse Tavern in Newport.
Oldest tavern in America, right?
Claims the title, yeah. Opened way back in 1673. Think about the sheer volume of history that's passed through those doors. Colonial figures, sailors, revolutionaries.
And the ghosts reflect that history.
Seems so. Staff and guests report really classic tavern hauntings. Phantom footsteps on the stairs when no one's there, feeling a tap on the shoulder, and actual apparitions cited figures dressed like old sailors or colonial gentlemen.
Then there's the General Stanton Inn down in Charlestown, even older roots.
Potentially, parts of it date back to around 1650, and its history is wild. It was supposedly a meeting place for spies during the Revolution.
Wow.
A stop on the Underground Railroad, and then much later during Prohibition, it apparently attracted guys like Al Capone for illicit gambling. It's seen a bit of everything.
So who haunts the General Stanton Inn?
Well, General Stan IV himself is said to hang around, particularly in room 9. But there are quirkier things too. Staff talk about an electric compressor, totally unplugged, just starting up by itself sometimes.
Weird.
And maybe my favorite detail from the sources, the phantom cat. People report hearing a cat meow or feeling it brush against their legs, but there's no cat there.
A ghost cat. Okay, that's memorable. What about military sites? Fort Wetherill in Jamestown.
Right, an abandoned coastal defense battery. It saw use in basically every American conflict from the mid-1700s onward. Lots of military history. But the main haunting story is older folklore mixed with something darker.
The Black Dog.
The Phantom Black Dog. Yeah. Big, scary, with red eyes and fangs. The legend dates back to the British occupation in 1776. And in British folklore, seeing a black dog like that is often an omen of death.
So it taps into that old superstition.
Exactly. But there's also a layer of modern tragedy there, which makes the place feel heavier. In 1985, the bodies of 4 murdered young women were discovered nearby. An unsolved crime.
Oh, that's awful. Does that connect to the dog legend?
Not directly, but it adds this palpable sense of dread and real-world horror to the location. People today report hearing loud phantom barking and growling, and sightings of the dog itself sometimes walking right through the solid fort walls.
So looking back at everything we've covered, colonial vampires, institutional ghosts, industrial spirits, Gilded Age phantoms, haunted taverns, phantom dogs, it's an incredible range.
It really is. The variety is astounding for such a small state.
What's the big takeaway then? Why Rhode Island? Is it just the concentrated history?
I think it's that combination we talked about. It's the stratified history, all these different eras of intense human experience, from the earliest colonial days to the 20th century, often happening in the very same locations. That density of trauma seems unparalleled.
And maybe amplified.
Possibly. Amplified by those unique geophysical factors, the sources
Okay.
suggest the quartz, the potential Larry lines. It's like the land itself might be retaining and broadcasting these echoes more strongly than elsewhere. It creates this whole ecosystem of the paranormal.
It's fascinating because the sources show these aren't just generic hauntings.
Mhm.
They're often incredibly specific, personal even.
Yeah.
Like that story from Tavern on Main where a spirit supposedly corrected someone saying her name wrong via an EVP recording.
Right. Or Mercy Brown's body being found in that state. These aren't just bumps in the night, they're detailed, distinct narratives tied to specific people and events.
So the final thought for you listening is this. Given how specific and varied these Rhode Island hauntings are, from corrupting names to preserved corpses, is this state just unusually rich in compelling local legends? Or is there something about concentrating so much historical trauma in one tiny area, maybe combined with the land itself, that genuinely traps these energies, these stories, in a way that bigger, more spread out states just don't? Something to ponder, definitely.